So I'm going to model out to you one of the arguments that would be relevant to Module 0 when we were first learning the basics of scientist work. So our question is, how does the fortune-telling fish work? How is it able to curl in a variety of ways? So before we start to annotate, we need to read this paragraph for the gist. The fortune-telling fish works by reacting mostly to the varying location of moisture on our palms. In an experiment, when the middle of the fish was placed over a moist part of a paper towel, both the head and tail curled up in less than 4 seconds. That almost flipped over. When the head of the fish was put over a moist area, only the head lifted and curled up, and the tail part remained flat and unmoving. In another test, wire was put under the tail, and the tail curled up right away that it nearly touched the head on the other side. However, the head remained flat. Another observation is that the area where the fish absorbed water, the material shriveled up. When we did the experiment on the location of heat under the fish, only the part that had heat under curled downwards, which means the remaining parts of the fish lift up slightly. According to the research, the fish is made of very thin hygroscopic material, which means that it absorbs water from its environment. It makes sense that the fish would react to our palms because our palms are one of the moistest places on our bodies. It will curl whenever it absorbs water because perhaps the cellophane material swells up and curls up. The middle part, when wet, cannot curl up in the middle when wet, so both of its sides end up curling up. Furthermore, the fish reacts in a variety of ways because our palms has many different moisture level spots. It reacts differently for each person or each time you use it because it depends on the position you place the fish. If you place the fish's head on the moistest area of your palm and the other parts are not so moist, only the head will move. If the person's palm is moist throughout, then the fish will move like crazy, such as curling the head and the tail and almost flip over. If the person had small areas of moisture and the fish was placed with its head on the moisture, then the head would move just like how we saw it in the experiment. If the person placed the tail on a moist part, the tail would curl up. If the person had really dry hands, the fish would remain pretty flat because the material the fish is made out of absorbs moisture. So that's our long scientific explanation or argument about how the fortune-telling fish work. So let's take a look at the key. For our claim, we need to highlight green, our evidence highlight yellow, our reasoning highlight pink, and our science concepts are underlined. And they're pink because science concepts are only in the reasoning section of your argument. Okay, there should not be any science words most of the time in your evidence. Evidence are just your observations or data. That's it. The reasoning is where your thoughts and your knowledge come in. So let's minimize this by clicking on this blue button. And we have learned that the claim is the first sentence. The fortune-telling fish works by reacting mostly to the varying location of moisture on our palms. I'm going to highlight that green because that's our first sentence and it answers our question. In an experiment, when the middle part of the fish was placed over a moist part of a paper towel, both the head and tail curled up in less than 4 seconds. Okay, so I know my next part is definitely going to be evidence. It's talking about the experiment and what I observed, and it keeps on going on. Keeps on going on and on and on. We just need to figure out where it stops. In another test, water is put on the tail. So this is more of what I observed. Another observation. That's a key word for observation or evidence. There, more. And according to the research, when it says according to the research, that's a little indicator that reasoning has started, okay? Because reasoning is all about the science concepts or the science definitions. Here I see the word hygroscopic. It's definitely the beginning of reasoning, and the very end of the paragraph will be the end of reasoning. So I'm highlighting the rest, pink or red. Okay. Middle part. Furthermore, reacts differently. then the rest is reasoning. So now we're not done. According to our key, we also need to underline the science concepts. So let's use our marker right now, and let's use black, and let's underline the science concepts. Science concepts are typically at the beginning of your reasoning. Science concepts are like facts of science or definitions of science words. I see a fact right here, and I'm going to, let me erase this. Let me minimize this, make this line a little bit smaller, and actually make the eraser big. Okay, and make my black line really small. All right. Fish is made of hygroscopic material. That's a science concept. And the definition is right here. So that's more of a science concept. Palms are one of the moistest places on our bodies, another science concept. And that's it. The rest of it is thinking and making connections of evidence to the claim.